Hello everybody, it's the Historical Gamer once again, and today we're returning to Strategic Command, World War II, World at War. In our last episode, we fought the first half of the Battle of Moscow and successfully invaded and took over the city of Moscow with the 3rd Panzer Tank Army. The Soviets have lost very heavily this turn. They've actually lost 2 infantry armies, 4 infantry corps, 2 regular armored units, 2 full-fledged tank units here. They also had a 3rd tank unit here that suffered 50% casualties. They had a light tank unit which was driven back and suffered more than 50% casualties. They lost 1 air unit, and they lost a shock army as well. So it's been a pretty bad turn so far for the Soviets, but they still have a lot of troops in and around Moscow. So once we end our turn, I'm assuming we can expect a concerted Soviet counterattack on Moscow. And unfortunately, because I couldn't get 1 unit here across the river in the south, our tank unit will be exposed to counterattack on 3 hexes, which means theoretically the Soviets could hit it up to 6 times, which definitely means if they bring strong forces to bear, we might well lose Moscow after just taking it, but we'll see how things play out. If we do hang on to Moscow, then the Soviets will likely move their capital to Kubenezhev here to the east. They have 2 alternative capitals at Kubenezhev and then Perm, before likely we'd be able to force them to surrender. Unfortunately, it's kind of off-center from our main bulk of troops here, so I would have to hope that if we hold on to Moscow that the Soviets start shifting troops east to that capital to get between us and the capital. Otherwise, we're going to kind of be stuck and pinned in here without sufficient forces to break out east. I did try to kind of keep a slight hole we have open toward Kubenezhev. We actually have 1 Italian corps already kind of in that direction. We've got some armored units pointed in that direction. We destroyed a Soviet infantry unit near Rezhev, but they likely will counterattack this mechanized unit, maybe destroy it. They've got a bunch of troops in here that they could pull back to Kubenezhev as well, but that would also open up all these troops of ours near the center to advance to the east. They have a large bulk of troops around Stalingrad as well, and then we're also advancing on Grozny in the Caucasus. We've already taken some other oil wells in the Caucasus, so hopefully we're going to start having a stifling effect on the Soviet economy with the loss of some of the oil so far, and with the loss of Moscow. One would have to hope that they stop having so many resources to bring to bear against us. Meanwhile, let's switch this guy over to hunt mode and move him over here. We've got some submarines on the convoy route to Russia. The British landed a raiding party here at Grunnen here in the north in Norway. Fortunately, there's no port there, so they were going to have massive supply problems. We did lose 1 garrison trying to pin him in, but my hope is they can't really go anywhere or get to any ports or anything like that. I don't think D-Day will start yet. Still feels like it's a little bit of a ways out. Let's go ahead and switch this over to hunt as well, and see if maybe we can swing this direction. Okay, so we just moved this submarine here onto the sort of African supply routes, and then we'll also try and move it to the Mediterranean next turn. The situation for the Germans is most tenuous in the Mediterranean, where the Americans have successfully taken Algiers, and the Algerian location from the French. Tunis is not yet at war with the Allies, so they don't have an easy route to get to Libya. If they did, they'd certainly be overrunning our very sparse forces here in the Western Desert. But the counter to that, potentially the bad counter to that, is that we have basically no troops in Italy. We just raised an Italian army. We've got 1 Italian garrison. Rome is actually unoccupied. So that could be a problem if the Americans attempt to make a bold gambit to land on the Italian at the Italian capital. And speaking of which, let's move this garrison unit here, and then we will. We'll operate this garrison to Rome just to make sure they don't get any funny ideas. All right, this unit in Split will actually, as I've been told, be able to counter both of these partisan units as long as your partisan unit is adjacent to the hex where the partisans are. They suppress it. So this garrison at Split can counter both the partisan units here to its flank, and this German unit that we just moved over here can counter the partisan unit near Nish. So theoretically, if that's true, this unit can move out of Athens, and this guy can move south. So they should all be countered. And I think all the partisan units here in Russia are being dealt with. He's adjacent to Rostov and over here. There's no one here. Or actually, he's adjacent over here. We've got units adjacent to everything up here near Moscow. I guess the one area there isn't anyone adjacent to is right here. I hate the idea of pulling some of our fighters back because I think we're going to need them. But I do think I also... Alright. Huh. Alright, so I think we should counter the Soviet partisans nicely now, although we have, what, one fighter unit here and one unit here. Actually, we've got another fighter unit here, so we've got 3 fighters to intercept the Soviet bombers if they do try and counterattack. And that's the situation in Germany. The one other thing in Germany is we have taken Cairo, so Egypt has fallen to us. I need to move my garrison here. So we have taken Cairo. It has fallen to us. I don't know if the British will advance up north from Sudan. We'll see. I think they have an air unit here at Wadi Haifa. I don't think they have any ground units. We're in the process of trying to get to and take Jerusalem. So we'll see how that unfolds. The British do have a HQ unit and a corps of infantry there. We're trying to convince Syria to join the war against the Allies. But if we do, then we could probably easily take Jerusalem and Amin and have sort of almost a corridor into the south of Russia, although we don't really have a lot of forces to deal with it. Frankly, if the British do, or if the Americans do swing out of Algeria, then we're going to need to pull these guys back. But in any event, we're trying to take Jerusalem while also keeping an eye to the south, and that's kind of the situation as it is right now. On the Asian front, Singapore just fell, so we took Singapore. We're shifting forces north to deal with the British in Burma. We're also dealing with the Chinese and the British coming in here in the south of China. In the north of China, we're driving on the new Chinese capital at Langkao. We've just taken the Soviet capital at Yan'an, and assuming there's no counterattacks there, communist China, I believe, will fall to us. In time for a spring offensive in 43, hopefully into the heartland of China to take the second and then the third capitals. And if we can take both of them, I mean, theoretically, we could advance into the Soviet Union with the Japanese, but I think I'd rather turn my focus to dealing with the Americans. Part of me wants to put more garrisons on these islands, but I don't know how effective garrisons really will be. Let's see. I'm in the process of reinforcing some of these islands to the east. I may try and land on Guadalcanal and get the Solomons to fall to us. I'm in the process of trying to get some transports to Rabaul. And we had one other transport that I think I moved to Wake that I think we're gonna try and reinforce Nehru or Marujo. I'm not sure, one or the other. And then we'll probably also try and reinforce Rabaul as well. So, and then at that point, maybe we advance into the Solomons. But yeah, so that's the situation right now. We're trying to rebuild the Japanese fleet at the moment as well. So let's go ahead and jump forward to the next turn, and we'll see what happens here. I also need to move this headquarter unit out of. I need to move a headquarters unit to somewhere that'll be more useful than what we have right now. So let's move this carrier out for just a second. We're going to move this headquarters guy here. And apparently I can't unload yet. So yeah, anyway, so we'll move this guy into this area so we can provide supply to our troops in Burma. So that's the situation. Let's go ahead and end the turn, and we're going to advance to March, or to April, actually. Soviet morale suffers from the loss of Moscow. Germany celebrates the fall of Moscow. The Soviets move their government to Kubernejev. Communist China surrenders. Japan plunders 86 MPPs. With the British defeat in Egypt and Cairo in our hands, there are thousands of Egyptian nationalists calling for the right to take up arms and serve with us in this war. We could form these men into a garrison unit to help protect our gains in Egypt and the Middle East. Raising this unit in Cairo will cost 25 MPPs. Do we want to raise the Egyptian Legion? Egyptian nationals hope to take advantage of an Axis victory over the British to gain independence for their country. They may have been disappointed had Germany won the war, but in the immediate excitement following an Axis victory in Egypt, no doubt the Germans would have found sufficient volunteers to form an Egyptian Legion. Okay, yeah, we'll do that. Egyptian Legion is formed in Cairo to serve the Axis. Axis plunder, I didn't actually see how many victory points that was from Moscow. I'm hoping it was a large number. Foreign Minister reports diplomatic success in Argentina, so Argentina should be declaring war on the Allies now. Only 25 from plundering Moscow, really? I would have thought we would have plundered more than that. Maybe the Soviets don't have that much money. I don't know. We have been kind of blooding them pretty hard, but I don't know how the plunder rules work either. Argentina prepares for war. Maybe that'll divert American attentions to South Africa. The British pulled their headquarters unit back to Jordan. Meanwhile, it looks like the Soviets are railing some troops away. So maybe they're railing troops east to Kubernejev? I'm not sure. It definitely looks like they're pulling back somewhat. But maybe not. They also do this a lot of times, and then new units fill the place of the units that pulled out, so we'll see. I guess I would have expected a fierce counterattack on Moscow, which is certainly still possible. Looks like the weather's starting to clear. There's still rain in some parts here in China, but it'd be really great for us if the weather cleared up and we could use our massive Japanese Air Force against these Chinese troops. Some of them are experienced and dug in. Sorry if that was too long. I hope that wasn't too long of an intro to this video, guys. American bombers out of North Africa. British bombers out of Sudan trying to hit Alexandria. Soviet bombers there as part of a counterattack here. Not against Moscow, though, interestingly. Against troops to the north of Moscow. This bomber is going against our tanks in Moscow. Did no damage. Alright, so escorts and interceptors. Wow. That anti-aircraft did a world of hurt on that Soviet unit. Lost 5 hit points there. Soviet attack on Moscow loses 3 hit points without damaging that tank. Their infantry does a little bit better. Still, they're suffering very heavy casualties with their infantry trying to counterattack our tanks in the city. 3 here, 3 on the unit that pulled back, 3 on the tank unit. Soviets just destroyed that Finnish garrison unit here in front of Helsinki. Counterattacking against these German tanks in the south. So far, nothing doing for the Soviet troops there. The Italians near Penza, however, suffer very heavy casualties and are pushed back. That elite Soviet unit does a little bit of damage to our armored unit there. We're going to try and roll that armored unit down toward Grozny. I would love to take Grozny from the Soviets. I really want to wrap up the Caucasus. Starve the Soviet economy. The oil wells have like a 10 MPP economic output per hex. They're very important to the economy. So, not only would I prefer they be in our hands, but I would also hope that we could deny them to the enemy. You know, taking one of those can have a 15 MPP swing in the first turn, and that's without, like, repairing or making them more efficient or anything. I'm still kind of surprised that the fall of Singapore hasn't actually made much of a difference to the Japanese economy. The Japanese economy, I vaguely remember the Japanese economy being like 100 MPP stronger before the American embargo against them. And we've taken the Dutch East Indies, so I would have thought that would have had a bigger impact on the Japanese, but so far not so much. Might still be the muddy season here. Obviously the weather will change one more time before it's the Germans' turn again, but you're still seeing a lot of rain throughout Northern Europe here. So the summer offensive may have to wait one more turn. Not that we ever really stopped our offensive. Okay, Soviets still moving some troops around. They haven't really pulled all that much out in front of Moscow. They definitely pulled some troops over to Kubanez, I think. But they didn't pull that many, by the looks of it. General Perón takes control of the Algerian army. Argentine army. And they join the Axis. Axis raiders disrupting UK and USSR convoys. How much? That's what I'm curious. Calculating supply. And it's just about to be our turn to do some stuff. Tripoli and Rome damaged from bombing, as well as Alexandria, the first garrison destroyed. The Allies lose 29 MPPs on our subs this turn. And Argentina has joined the Axis. Some intelligence. American heavy cruisers in the American Samoas. Alright, so first things first, what can Argentina do? Well, Brazil is at war. Can we upgrade this corps? We can. We can give Argentina German quality weapons. We're going to do that. And we're going to reinforce their headquarter unit. And then next turn we're going to swing in toward Port Algiers and we're going to start invading Brazil. Meanwhile, theoretically we could start the invasion now. I can't operate anyone to the front. Not very far anyway. Honestly, we're just better off marching. So we're going to move this garrison and army unit toward Port Algiers and start dealing the Brazilians a bit of a hurt. And maybe that will trickle into punishing the Americans or diverting American attentions. Alright, so no, that's not very much. What if we bomb these guys? Okay, we're going to move this guy to Cairo. We're going to move these guys, or Alexandria, these guys to Cairo. I can't reinforce these tanks, so we might as well destroy this headquarters unit. Can only do one reinforcement for this guy? Alright, I don't want to attack Jerusalem yet with our armor. Mainly because of the casualties I think I'll lose. So this turn we destroyed a British headquarter unit near Jerusalem. We weren't able to take the city. I mean, I'm not going to attack these guys. They'll be dug in at 3. We'll knock down 1 with the artillery, 1 with the bombers, I think. Honestly, rather than pull these guys out west, I feel like maybe we're better moving those headquarters in another direction, but I did it anyway. Fuck. I can't get my subs anywhere. Alright. These guys are going to go to the Mediterranean. I'm trying to see if I can figure out what's in front of us here. Like if they're moving anything to Italy, but so far we can't see anything. Meanwhile, the British are still cut off. Near Grogan. Their supply actually went up, interestingly enough. I don't know where they're drawing supply from. I should have built those units up before moving them in, so we're not going to attack quite yet. Meanwhile, in Russia. Meanwhile, in Mother Russia. Alright, let's try and destroy these Soviet tanks in front of our forces here to free up our units a bit. That did quite a bit of damage against that Soviet unit there. Okay. We'll attack out of Moscow there. Alright, so we destroyed that Soviet unit. We'll pull back into Moscow. Move this guy forward here to attack this Soviet air unit and destroy it. These Stukas flew. This one did not. Fly this Stuka in the north. More Soviet interceptors. We'll hit these strategic bombers against these tanks. They're not going to do anything. Nice. Very nice job at that unit. Do we want to try and finish him off? Alright, so down to level 2. Alright, we'll finish him off. Alright, there you go. So we finished that unit off. This ground unit can move forward and attack this garrison unit. Very nice. Okay. We'll finish it off with air. So there we have it. Another Soviet unit destroyed here. Why can't these mechanized troops do anything? Alright, so I think that does it for our air. Meanwhile, these guys... Damn it! What if our fighters... They can't do anything against them. Well, fuck. We can't finish off the Soviet air unit, which does manage to escape. Is there... why is this guy here? Fuck. Well, that was pointless. Alright. Can't hit him either. Shit. Okay, so now what? I've destroyed several Soviet units without any real focus or coordination. Interesting that I can do 1 to 3 with the mechanized here. Alright, we're going to pull this mechanized unit back after it did some pretty substantial damage against the Soviet unit here. And then our army unit just successfully destroyed that Soviet corps. These guys can't reinforce, so we'll stick back. I'm just trying, honestly, to use this turn to shatter what's left of the Soviet army here. I know I'm losing some casualties, but if I can just essentially cripple the Soviet army this turn, it would really be, I think, a huge triumph for us. So, we just destroyed that unit south of Moscow. What are we looking at from, like, a graph perspective? Actually, no, let's go back here. Soviet strength is 83 units, so somehow they actually gained some strength. Well, remained even, I guess? All right. Alright, so some of our units which aren't on the front lines this turn, we're going to spend this turn reinforcing them and getting them up to strength. Honestly, I don't know why these guys would still be where they are. These guys must not have much in the way of supply, it looks like. Which might be their problem. Alright, so... we just destroyed several Soviet units in and around the capital near Moscow. Okay. Hey, we did a little bit of damage with some Italian troops. Alright, so... let's pull him back. I need to reinforce this mechanized troop, shield him a bit from the enemy. We're going to fly some of our bombers east. We're assuming that the fighting will shift east a bit. That's the hope anyway. If they do pull away from Moscow back toward the next capital, then Moscow will be a location we want to have a supply depot on. But yeah, so we kind of widened the bulge here by taking Renezhev, or however you pronounce that. I think Moscow is more secure from counterattack. This unit's slightly weaker, but we did just destroy a bunch of units that were around it. So there's only 2 units this month that would be able to attack Moscow or this turn. Meanwhile, in the east... what do we want to do here? Can we bomb Grozny? Their entrenchment level 1. I can't get down there, really? Okay. Shit. Alright, so Grozny's weakened, but definitely not defeated yet. Let's move him to Rostov. Alright. Let's see if we can attack this isolated enemy unit here. Look at that long defensive position here near Stalingrad. Quite a few Soviet units there. We are so thin all along the front line. Frankly, it's pretty concerning. Reinforce just 1 point. What's the point even? Alright, maybe we can take Grozny next turn and then drive on Baku? Maybe. I don't know what the Soviet income is this turn either. Like, if we look at the Soviets here, this turn their MPP's again a huge loss turn for them. Their income doesn't really seem to be losing anything. They're still collecting 660. I don't understand how that's possible with the loss of their capital and a substantial portion of their forces. I know they moved supplies and whatever factories east, but still, this seems a little bit funny. Okay, move these guys around. So I think that does it for the Germans this turn. So I'll move back to the Japanese. I really don't want an American base at Soryang. So we're going to move him here. And then we'll see about moving on Soryang next turn. Not sure. I guess it's raining, so we can't move against him. We can upgrade the carrier. Advanced fighter level 3. So upgrade our aircraft wings here a bit. Alright, so some of these units can reinforce to full strength. Other units will maybe be able to upgrade. So this is our fleet rebuilding initiative. Which we're spending like all of our money on. But in any event, we just upgraded our fleet, or the bulk of it. I don't know what I did with that destroyer. Okay. Alright, so we're moving our forces on Molman in China, or in or I guess Burma. Meanwhile, in central China, it seems like the weather may have cleared a bit. Alright, let's see if that bomber can finish off that enemy artillery unit. And it can, so that Chinese unit is gone. Alright, so let's bomb the hell out of this lead Chinese force. Apparently not having much success. At least should be reducing its entrenchments. It's interesting that they would have more success. Alright, so our Air Force, I think, largely successfully reduced this unit's abilities. There we go. Alright, so our Air Force made this guy a pushover, and he's dead. Then we'll move in the unit behind it to attack the Chinese army behind it. Bring in another troop instead. Interesting. So this unit can move here. I guess it's only a corps there. A lot of Chinese forces between us and Langkao. That is a lot of men. Alright, so that Chinese headquarters gone. Meanwhile, these troops can move in and cut them off. Oh, come on. Nice. So apparently there's like a plain here in the north. Is there a way to operate these guys? There is. But not anywhere useful for us. I need to move these guys toward Chendao to give these guys additional supply. Meanwhile, I'd love to get a Japanese unit in, or a Japanese headquarters unit in Yan'an, which I guess I can do this way. I need to get these guys closer to the front. Alright, so Chungking needs something in it. Okay. Move them along the rail line. You know, all these guys need to reinforce in the south. All they can do is 2. Really, it's not about defeating the British here. It's more or less just about holding them in place. Keeping the British Indian Army at bay is my main goal in China, so we can drive in toward the secondary capital. So I think we accomplished that goal. So that's kind of the Chinese front. I think that one's done. I think our naval operations are done too. Alright, so move our destroyers there. Move our battleships to Davao. Many of our battleships are currently under repair. So I think that does it for this turn. Meanwhile, diplomacy, Syria joined us. Germany still has some chits. So I think the real focus needs to be on China now. Or on Syria, sorry. So we'll invest heavily in Syria. A good chunk of what money we had left. Italy also can invest in Syria. I know it seems like I'm pouring a ton of money in, but we're going to get at least 1 free unit, I imagine. So this should get Syria into the war, I think. Oh, goodness. Japan can fund Syria, too. Well, they don't have any money. Okay. Meanwhile, purchasing, we've got 290 points for Germany. What do we want to buy? Probably another infantry unit. So we'll spend our money on that. Germany is getting 2 units next turn. That will help a lot. A heavy tank unit and a cavalry division. Cavalry, well, we need some troops in the west, but we also do need additional troops in the east. So a level 2 infantry and a level 2 tank later this year. All of that will help us a lot. Italy can afford nothing, really. I mean, we can get another garrison for whatever good that does, which really isn't much. So I think we'll actually just save that for reinforcements for the Italian troops. So, yeah. All right. I think that's going to do it for this turn, guys. So not quite as much success as I would have liked to have seen in the south. In the north, we dealt quite a bit of destruction on the Soviet army. They feel pretty disorganized. I would like to see them pull back, but if they're going to keep taking punishment, we may be able to destroy them here in the next turn. If these units don't move, we certainly can destroy 2 army units here, assuming the weather holds, a armored unit here, and maybe 1 other unit. I don't know. But we'll see. We've kind of broken open the center of their line, so I'm imagining, you know, they're pulling back to Kubanadishev. It looks like they pulled their engineers back, so those will be useful in forming defenses against us. But overall, the Soviet front it's in flux. It's hard to say what's going to happen, but it's manageable. Meanwhile, we've started to approach the Chinese capital, and that entails a lot of challenges from a, supplying our troops and being able to keep up the bombing campaign against them and all of that jazz. But for the moment, anyway, it seems like we're having success. We destroyed one unit, advanced one hex closer, and almost destroyed a second unit. We destroyed a headquarters unit here near Yan'an. We destroyed the last Red Army headquarter unit here near the rear. I imagine these troops are going to run out of supply pretty soon, so then we can start advancing on Umrichi as well. While we're taking on Langkao, we might be able to break out with 2 or 3 corps here down this road toward the rear of China and maybe bring the war in China to a speedier conclusion. The challenge here is if we beat China, our troops are going to be like in the middle of China with no rail line or no logistics to get back to fight the Americans elsewhere. And the way this game is structured, having a bunch of troops, it's going to be expensive as hell to move them anywhere other than China. I mean, I guess if we take Umrichi, we can move some of our troops toward India. We could kind of invade India from the north, maybe? But moving through the Himalayas without any mobility perks is probably a no-no, so we'd probably have to swing them west toward Chongqing, then south, and deal with the British Indian Army here. I'm not sure what the best strategy will be. But that's for another day. Anyway, guys, until next time, this is the Historical Gamer saying, as always, thank you for continuing to support the channel, and I hope you're enjoying the series as things seem to be coming to a bit of a head. I imagine the American hammer blow will fall at any time, and we'll have to figure out how to deal with it when it does come. Last thing I'm going to do... Nehru's actually a supply, so we'll do this. We'll move these guys to Nehru because it is a secondary supply island. And then these guys are either going to go to Rabaul next turn or maybe to Suryang, because I do like the idea of taking this city back because the Americans have landed here, so that's potentially a problem. Let's pull these guys back into a port. All right. So next turn is probably a move on Suryang and the American forces there. And we'll go from there. Anyway, guys, until next time, this is the Historical Gamer saying thank you for watching. And until next time, I'm out.